Growing your podcast community is crucial for your success, and it all starts with engaged listeners. Having a large audience is great, don't get me wrong, but if they're not sharing your content, engaging with you online, and spreading the word, you have to ask yourself, is it really the community you want? To build a community that's passionate about your podcast, it's more than just trying to promote to a wider audience. It requires creating content that resonates, sparks conversation, and even fosters loyalty. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name's Quinn and this is Podcast Pro Tips, episode 19. Today we're going to be digging all into what it means to build an engaged community around your podcast. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe for more Podcast Pro Tips. And without further delay, let's dive in. One of the biggest challenges that podcasters face is attracting and retaining an engaged audience. It's easy to get caught up in the numbers, focusing on the downloads and the subscribers, but not really considering the quality of those numbers. The truth is, having thousands of listeners that aren't engaging with you isn't really much better than having no listeners at all. You might be thinking, okay, well, I have a podcast, I'm producing it regularly, I'm promoting it, I'm collaborating, I'm running ads, what more could I possibly be doing? The problem is that a lot of these traditional growth methods don't necessarily guarantee that the people you're bringing in will be engaged. They might be increasing your listener numbers, but it's not necessarily going to be turning those listeners into superfans, or better yet, a customer. We have all been there. You spend so long working on your episode, getting it ready, dialing in your show notes, you hit publish, and then crickets. No comments, no shares, no engagement whatsoever. Doesn't feel great. It's definitely frustrating, but the thing is, it's not the listener's fault. It's ours. We need to take ownership over the fact that we are the sole people responsible for creating content that resonates with our audience and makes them feel heard or understood. Another common pitfall is merely treating listeners as numbers and not real people. It seems obvious, but it's not uncommon that people get so wrapped up in their analytics that they forget that there are actually other real human beings on the other side of that number. We need to remember that each listener has their own unique story and lived experience, and our podcast can be a place that holds space for that. But creating engaging content is just the starting point. The real goal here is to create a community. It allows them to connect with you and each other and feel like they're actually a part of something bigger than themselves. So, you might be asking, how do we do that? The first step, and we say this a lot on this channel, is you have to know your audience, inside and out. What are their pain points? This is something you should be asking yourself all the time. What problem of theirs does your content help solve? When you understand who's listening on a deep level, you can create content that serves and connects with them in a way like other content might not. Overgeneralizing might be one of the reasons your podcast isn't succeeding the way you'd hoped, and also one of the reasons that people might not be engaging with it. When producing your show, think about how does this speak to the individual? A pro tip here is that any great podcast makes us feel like we're literally sitting in the room with the people speaking. Intimacy is key. It's like we're hanging out with a group of old friends that all have similar interests or are curious about the same things we are. A simple strategy is to encourage and ask for feedback. This could be as simple as running a poll and asking your listeners what they might like to hear discussed on your podcast, who they'd want to hear you interview, or even asking for feedback on a recent episode. By doing so, you get to strengthen that relationship with your audience. They not only feel like there's someone who tunes into your show, but this actually gives them a reason to engage with you and feel like they're a part of the podcast moving forward. Making interactive content is a great way to do this. It's quite common that the shows we produce will have a segment for listener questions where people can write in to the host and have stuff answered on the air, or even do dedicated episodes of purely listener questions in an Ask Me Anything style piece of content. In doing so, you will quickly find who in your audience is here for the long haul. All of these techniques set the foundation for turning passive listeners into a real engaged audience. Once you figure out who they are, you can start to ask them to participate in joining a Discord or a Facebook group, or even coming to a live event that you plan on hosting. The key is to create a space where your most engaged listeners have an opportunity to connect with you, and not only you, but also with each other. This not only fosters engagement, but also creates a sense of loyalty and participation. Here's the thing. Growing your podcast isn't just about producing more and more content. While many of the most successful podcasts are producing on a weekly basis, the quantity of your content will never trump the quality of it. This means we need to have a fundamental shift in how we perceive podcasting. Engagement is not a one-way street. Think of your content almost like an ongoing conversation with your audience. It's about listening to their feedback, engaging with their comments, not just because it's something you want to do to grow your show, but because you actually care. When you make the shift from focusing on the quantity of your listeners to the quality of your audience, now you're starting to grow your podcast for the long term. You're no longer thinking about how many listens do I get. You start to think about how engaged is the community that I'm trying to build. What can start as a simple Q&A episode might slowly evolve into an ongoing conversation in the DMs. That back and forth might eventually turn into opting in to join a mailing list. It's about moving listeners from the discovery stage, where they just start listening to your show, educating and nurturing them on who you are and what your broader picture is for this podcast, and then moving them into a place where they can connect with other like-minded individuals and grow deeper in their curiosity. The discovery, educate, nurture, and opt-in funnel is a very common term for what we call creating superfans in marketing. Because while growing your podcast is crucial for its success, building an engaged community is one of the most overlooked and most valuable assets in this industry. Remember, it's not about the numbers, it's about the people. If you'd like to discuss further how we might be able to assist you in building a community around your podcast, you can book a free discovery call with us at the Podcast Consultant in the link below. As always, thanks for watching. If you have any strategies that you feel has worked quite well for you in your podcast, let us know in the comments below. We'd love to talk about it. If you want more podcasting pro tips, be sure to check out our other videos, our website, or our blog, where there's a ton of information that'll help you on your podcasting journey. That's it for me today. I'll catch y'all in the next video, and happy recording.